Namaste everyone. Thanks for joining. Over to Dipti Mahajan. Dipti ji.
Thank you. Yeah, give me 1 minute. I'm just making the panelists join. Chingari team, let's get started.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ruchita?
Dipti ji.
So the prayer is not audible, Deepthi. Is somebody going to start it?
Give me 1 second. Welcome everyone. Let's start with a short prayer.
सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोऽस्तु ते या देवी सर्वभूतेषु विष्णुमायेति शब्दिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चेतनेत्यभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः.
This is a simple form of prayer for positive energy, prosperity, and success. Every day, we pray that our daughters are safe and healthy. Girls are revered and cherished and nurtured in most of the cultures across the world. But there are certain countries where young little girls are going through unspeakable atrocities every single day. Hello and namaste. I welcome you to the Chingari Annual Global Conclave 2025. Chingari stands for Coalition for Hindu Girls Abducted and Their Rights. We work to shine a global spotlight on the horrific injustices faced by Hindu, Christian, and Sikh minority girls in Pakistan, many of whom are abducted, raped, trafficked, and forced to convert under systemic abuse. Chingari is an initiative of Hindu Pact, the Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective, based in the US. Hindu Pact is a grassroots advocacy movement committed to promoting dharmic values like inclusion, pluralism, compassion, and individual liberty. We engage in civic action and policy advocacy while boldly confronting Hindu phobia and the denigration of Hindu traditions, deities, and heritage. Thank you for standing with us, and we give voice to the voiceless and demand justice for the forgotten girls of Pakistan.
Namaste, everyone. My name is Preeti Pratima, and I serve as the media head of Chingari, a project for, as Deepthi mentioned, uh, Hindu Pact, which stands for Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. On behalf of the entire Chingari team, I thank you for joining us today for this global Chingari conclave, held in solemn recognition of the International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression, which happens to be today, June 1st. Our mission is urgent and clear to protect minority girls in Pakistan from rape, abduction, forced religious conversion, and sexual slavery. Today, we shed light on a system of abuse that is both pervasive and largely ignored. Over the next hour or so, we will explore the scope of Chingari's work, uncovering how little girls from Hindu, Christian, and Sikh communities in Pakistan are groomed, trafficked, and brutalized. We will also engage with global experts to examine how institutions like United Nations are responding or failing to respond to this crisis. From Yazidis in Iraq to Hazaras in Afghanistan, from Coptic Christians in Egypt and to Sikh girls in schools in UK, and minority girls in Pakistan, children continue to suffer the worst forms of violence and exploitation in conflict zones around the world. This conclave is to acknowledge their pain and to educate the world to mobilize global action. Thank you so much for joining us and standing with us and with them. The purpose of our effort is to mount an action to protect minority girls in Pakistan from forced conversion, like we mentioned. We will delve into what Chingari is about, the systemic abuse of minority girls in Pakistan and its repercussions. Then we will engage with our esteemed panelists who are joining us from different parts of the world. The areas that we will cover are grooming, kidnapping, trafficking, and forced religious conversions of little girls from minority communities. Finally, we will open up for a panel discussion and audience questions. According to reports from the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, and APPG in UK, around 1,000 girls each year are abducted, sexually abused, and converted to Islam in Pakistan. These atrocities have been continuing for decades, and the victims of these crimes are young girls between the ages of 9 and 17. They are abducted, married off to much older men, and forbidden from ever returning to their families. Let us learn a little bit more about that work through this video. Dipti, you can play the video now.
Namaste and hello. Every day in Pakistan, young girls from Hindu, Christian, and other minority communities are kidnapped, assaulted, and forcibly converted to Islam. Many are underage, most never return.
उनकी जो मुजरिम है उनके लोग काफी परेशान करते थे घर वालों को धमकियां देते थे
मैं होती हूँ मुझे बहुत डर लगता है मैं दरवाजा भी नहीं खोलती कभी खोलती हूँ कभी नहीं खोलती
Priya Kumari was only 9 and Sneha was only 12 when they were taken. Raped, converted, and forced to marry much older men, their childhood ended overnight. They are 2 of over 1,000 minority girls each year who suffer the same fate. Who is accountable for the pain of these parents whose daughters were and still are being snatched from their arms in broad daylight? Pakistan's laws protect the perpetrators, not the victims. Government inaction is complicity.
The Chingari Project is a social justice campaign aimed towards bringing awareness across the globe about the atrocities that young innocent Hindu girls face in Pakistan each day. Through informative advocacy, we seek to make our local U.S. representatives aware of the unstable religious situation in Pakistan and take further action to convey their disapproval.
You can help. Sign our petitions. Contact your representative. Speak out. Because this isn't a Hindu issue, it's a human rights crisis.
Stand with Chingari. Stand with these girls.
Namaste, everyone. My name is Deepthi Mahajan, and I am the Executive Director of Chingari Project. I would like to introduce Mr. Rahul Soor as the moderator of the questions today. Rahul is a former IPS officer and a retired Inspector General of Police, Maharashtra, with a distinguished record in law enforcement. He later served over 20 years at the United Nations, including as Chief of Peacekeeping Evaluation, leading the evaluation of UN peacekeeping missions that cost the UN $6 billion annually. Widely traveled in Africa and the Middle East, he has academic with degrees from Harvard, Delhi University, and St. Stephen's College. Mr. Soor brings deep insight into law, governance, security, and human rights issues. He's based in New York, and he continues to be a respected voice on international affairs and human rights. Rahulji, given your wide experience in the United Nations, can you tell us what is the evidence that has accumulated against Pakistan? What does it amount to? And what can we do about it in a concerted manner?
Dipti ji, thank you very much. I'm very privileged that you have invited me to this very important subject of the kidnapping and conversion of Hindu girls. Briefly, because we want to hear all the distinguished panelists, I just want to say 4 things to begin with. One is that the problem is very much known at the international level, and United Nations documents and experts have repeatedly called out Pakistan in this respect. These are experts who are considered special rapporteurs, and they have used fairly strong language in condemning Pakistan, saying that the systemic abuse, abduction, kidnapping, trafficking, sexual servitude, forcible marriage are to be condemned, and they are going on with impunity. Even at the level of the United States Commission on International Freedom, this issue is very well known. And the Pakistan Human Rights Commission has also talked about forcible conversions. So the first thing which I want everybody to understand is that this is a very well-known problem. It is festering right there in the sunlight for many, many years. The second thing which I'd like to say is that we have recently filed a complaint of genocide against Pakistan with the UN. And one of the things which is there in the complaint is the technical definition of genocide, which is under Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. Now, in this article, there are 2 things which are specifically prohibited. One is taking measures to prevent births in a community. And the second one is transferring the children from one community to another. Now, when there is forcible conversion, there is obviously, that means that the woman will no longer have children who are of the Hindu faith and consequently fall immediately within the definition of genocide. Another factor for that is another aspect, striking aspect of that is the impunity. Now, again, it has come out very clearly in the UN documents that it is the police and the judiciary that are complicit and looking away in many respects. For instance, the police does not investigate properly. They say that it is a love affair. They will say she is forcibly converted to Islam. And when she goes to the court, when the matter ultimately lands up in the courts also take a very lenient view of this, not looking at the underlying documents to see whether her age is correct or whether she has converted or not. So therefore, it is not only the system, but also when this takes place in the court, they're invariably accompanied by conservative Muslim clerics out there, and supremacist religious slogans are raised. And therefore, the girl and the family is against a very big obstacle. The last thing which I want to say about this is that there is a clearly religious element in this, because inviting people to Islam and converting, especially women, is considered a religiously meritorious activity. So this is a very complex and a very long-ranging problem. It is not festering in some dark corner of the international sphere, but it is out there in the open for many years, and nothing much has happened about it, despite the fact, the gravity of the situation. So these are the beginning remarks which I'd like to make, but I think let's turn it over to our distinguished panelists and let's hear from them, Dipti.
Thank you so much, Rahulji. So now I invite Mr. Rajiv Malhotra. Welcome, Rajiv ji. Rajiv Malhotra is a leading voice in Indic studies and a prominent advocate for Hindu civilizational thoughts. With a background in physics and computer sciences, he took early retirement to pursue research and philanthropy full-time. Through the Infinity Foundation, he has promoted education and scholarship on Indian culture. Mr. Rajiv is known for his bold critique of Western narratives and for authoring influential books like Being Different and Breaking India, Snakes and Ganges, and many, many more, which challenge prevailing global views on Hinduism and India. Welcome, Rajiv ji.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I won't say it's a pleasure because I'm very disturbed by the subject matter. And it's very important. It's very important that you should shake people out of their comfort zone. And so I'm very glad to be here. You see, we know the problem, or let's say enough of us don't know, but many of us do know the problem. So at one level, what you are doing is important. You are spreading the awareness among our own people, because there is a force multiplier. Lot more people are needed to be out there fighting for these girls. But then you need to also take it outside the sphere of like-minded people. You know, we thrive on kind of internally, canvassing our cause to other similar people. But we need to go outside of this. And that is where we need collaborations. We also need the audacity to get in the face. So when I started my own thing, which was not on this particular cause, but maybe I can share how I did it. I would take a cause after doing all the research and homework. You've already done that. You are well into that. Then I would want to identify who are the worst offenders, who are the top leaders, not some marginal people here and there. Where is the headquarters of this, whether it is Harvard or whatever, maybe very big shots, and generally they were very big shots. And then I want to take the fight to them. Okay. And this means I better be sure of my facts, because they're going to come after me. They're going to drag my name in the mud. They're going to call me all kind of things. And they'll even try to get my own Hindus against me. And there are a lot of Hindus who will join them because it's fashionable to hit each other. So I faced all that. And you'll have to face all that. What you need, Deepti, you're exceedingly brave and courageous. I commend you. You're so persistent and so passionate about it. I really am very impressed by that. And Rahul and many others who are here. Asra, of course. So what you need to do, what all of us need to do, is with this ammunition and a very strong argument that we have, we need to identify which are the top NGOs that ought to be paying attention to this, but they are not. Which are the women's groups? Which are the human rights groups? Which are the legal forums? where legal action can be taken, like the one Rahul has initiated in the United Nations. There are many such forums. And so you submit these cases, these arguments, you go to conferences. Where are the conferences on women's rights? Where are they? Why aren't we doing a panel there? We are doing a panel here. Our panel should be in a conference on women's rights or a conference on human rights, children's rights, whatever. We should identify the target list of events, global events in the world, not insiders talking to each other, but the global mainstream events where we are not even represented, and we got to get in there. And that's where our activism should be. Now, to do all this, at first they'll ignore you. That is what happened. I've done that many times. They will definitely ignore you because they don't want to take on this. They don't even want to acknowledge such a problem because they don't know what to do with it. They're very embarrassed and scared. But don't let that discourage you, that they're ignoring, they're not letting you in, they're giving some excuse, you missed the deadline, whatever, they won't let you have a panel, have a speaker. Then you need to take that entire document, that case, what your case is and how you approach this guy, that guy, and they yelled at you, they canceled you, whatever, and you got to take it to the media. You have to have very, very powerful media on your site. Some of it you have to buy, some of it you go to through influencers, and you got to shame them. I was ignored until I started shaming them. Initially I was funding them. I was the biggest donor of all the Harvard type places. And when I turned against them, then they started saying, oh, we don't want this guy. And we want his money, but don't talk much about it. So I had one advantage. Because I was funding, I had access to these people. And they would invite me as to give a 2-minute nice polite talk, and I would turn it into a whole argument against the very organizers, even though it's my own funding, because they couldn't deny me access. So I had that advantage of getting in the door and humiliating them, embarrassing them, and being willing to take the hits, because they all come after me. You need to do that. I think that's the breakthrough we need next. We are at a stage where the case is very strong, the documentation is very strong. How do we take it to the next step of in the face fighting where the fight needs to go? So that's my message, and I would like to work with you on how we achieve that. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. I think that's a very good insight, Rajiv ji. And before we even start talking about these organizations, I think it's extremely important that people need to be aware. Like, I have come across questions from regular individuals when I bring this up, and I'm asked, there are still communities or minority communities in Pakistan. Are there still Hindus, Christians, and Sikhs in Pakistan? I mean, the level of ignorance is mind-blowing. But thank you so much, Rajiv ji. And we definitely, we all need to work together. This will take not a village. This will take the world to do something. So over to you, Rahul ji, and please go ahead and ask your questions. Rahul ji, you are on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So just a question to Rajiv ji before I go to the next speaker. Rajiv ji, you had written a very nice paper recently talking about Pahalgam and giving the global context to that. So looking at it from that point of view, do you think that point of view and that frame and that angle which you try to bring about is also applicable here?
Yeah. So just to give people a background, I was brought by in Washington by the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and many others, to give a talk on what's behind how do we interpret this India-Pakistan thing. And the whole discussion I said is wrong. The whole discussion has treated it like some territorial dispute, like some kind of a secular issue, that who owns this territory and whatnot. And India is fighting based on legalities of the territory, and Pakistan also this and that, and it's a human rights issue, whatever. Now the thing is, I said it's actually jihad. It's actually a global issue. There is a 1300-year history of Islam wanting to establish a caliphate. Immediately after the Prophet died, there was a caliphate established, and the caliphate is a world government where the whole world is under one man called a caliph. He has to be a male, and everybody reports to him, and the law is the Sharia law. And to bring this about is the purpose of jihad. So the word caliphate, the word Sharia, and the word jihad are all interrelated. And you cannot avoid that. And out of the 1300-year history, if you were to search under caliphate, you will find that there was a series of 4 caliphates. Immediately after the Prophet died, there was one that lasted so many years, and another one, then another one, another one. These 4 continuous, one after the other, with no gap in between, lasted together for 1200 years out of the 1300-year history. So only in 1924, about 100 years ago, with the end of the Ottoman Empire, the latest caliphate died or was dismantled by the Europeans, by the West. So, but out of 1300-year history, 1200 years has been under a caliphate. How can you not think of that? That is what the project is all about. The project is all about establishing this kind of a world government, world system. And only when you understand that as the foundation, of which there's no, I pointed out sources in their holy texts. I pointed out the surveys among Muslims in all these countries. Somewhere between 70 and 90% of the Muslims surveyed in 50, 60 countries are wanting a caliphate, including 30-40% in England. In England are wanting a caliphate, including 1 in 5 Muslims in the United States are wanting a caliphate. So, but in other countries, it's like Pakistan is like 80%, and so they all want this global brotherhood of Muslims. So when you look at you look at how there is cross-border fighting. So when there's a fight in Kashmir, there's people coming from Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan and all these places. And when there's a fight in Gaza, there's all these guys coming. Why is it every little fight of a Muslim becomes a global fight? It is because of the caliphate. So you need to have this understanding. Now, this is a long paper. I won't go into all of it, but the state of the affairs is today that I won't mention the name, but a good Jewish scholar has contacted me and is interested in joining into a joint paper. We'll co-author. We want to be a co-author. So we will have a Hindu-Jewish joint co-authored paper on how the right way to see Gaza and Kashmir and all these other instances is through the lens of this caliphate. That's the project. Right. That's one of the projects I'm working.
Thank you, Rajivji. Now let's go to Ms. Asra Nomani. Asra ji, welcome very much, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, please.
Next, let me introduce Asra. Asra is an acclaimed investigative journalist, author, and former Wall Street Journal reporter. Born in Bombay and raised in West Virginia, she is a fearless voice on issues of freedom, faith, and civil rights. Asra is the founder of the Muslim Women's Freedom Tour and co-founder of Muslims for Peace. Her work has appeared across major media platforms, and her books include Standing Alone, Tantrika, and Woke Army. She also co-founded the Pearl Project, honoring her friend Daniel Pearl, whose story was depicted in A Mighty Heart. And Asra, I had a pleasure of reading your books. So please go ahead and shine some light and share your knowledge on this issue of minority girls and atrocities on minority communities in Pakistan. Go ahead, Asra.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. You're able to see me, okay? There we go.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rajiv ji and Rahul ji and Deepti ji, for all of your context that you've said already.
Just 1 second, I'm sorry to interrupt. Deepti, can you please put a spotlight on Asra ji? Or,
there we go.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you to everyone already for setting the stage for this important conversation. As you have heard, my name is Asra Nomani. I am born in India and I grew up in West Virginia. I want to just introduce myself a little bit to you because I think it's important in this conversation to understand the humanity of the challenge that we're facing. You know, in my in my family, we are Muslims through, you know, many generations. But what I have been able to identify is that 14 generations ago, we are able to trace back to my Hindu ancestor in the state of Uttar Pradesh, where there was a conversion to Islam through the Sufi mystics. And so I ground us in my own story in this context because what we are facing, you know, is a timeless struggle, as Rajivji just noted about the issue of supremacy, you know, over people and identities. And that is what the modern day struggle is for these Hindu girls and women in Pakistan, where they are left as a minority in a new geopolitical reality that has divided the subcontinent into these two nations, leaving these young women and girls as second-class citizens in Pakistan. But what we face is a longer, you know, timeless journey of sorts over identity in the subcontinent and really in our world. And so I ground my own conversation with this, you know, lovely token that I have to the power of women in Hinduism, but also in humanity. And it is a statue of the Durga and becomes a symbol for me of the struggle for all women and girls everywhere, no matter what your religious identity or personal identity, to have first-class rights, you know, because the conversation that I want to focus on as a Muslim is the fact that what we are facing is an interpretation of Islam that has put these girls and women as targets of their idea of what power and control can look like in the lives of people in a society. And so power and control is the dynamic that has led to the oppression of people throughout the world, right? Throughout history, throughout identities. It is the story of British colonial rule over India. It is the story of oppression of any kind by one person over another. And so I just also center my thoughts on that point because ultimately the idea of supremacy is the idea of a hierarchy of human value. You know, a hierarchy of one person being more important than another person, of one person's rights being more important than another person's rights. And so the reality that we face today is one in which tyrants of Muslim supremacy, patriarchy, misogyny, like whatever term you want to use, exercise their power over a minority and over people who are not being protected by the state. And so the two fundamental interpretations of Islam that I have tried to challenge in the Muslim reform movement is the interpretation that Islam is supreme over other religions. You know, we reject that idea in the Muslim reform movement, and thus that means that in a society like Pakistan, it is not acceptable to then use as an agency of power the idea that you can convert a person from Hinduism or Christianity to Islam to improve their lot in life. Like that is not acceptable. Then the second idea that is so fundamental that we are challenging is the idea that girls and women are second-class citizens in society. This is an interpretation that is afflicting everyone in the society, because what happens is that not only is our Hindu girls or our Christian girls denied their agency, but so are Muslim girls and Muslim women. So we have cases in which women are raped, are sexually assaulted, and their witness is equal to half a woman's witness is half the witness of a man. So 2 women equal 1 man, and then a woman has to present 4 witnesses to allegations of sexual assault or rape. And so that's unfair. That's just intrinsically unfair against all people. And so when you couple these 2 ideas together, that is how in this new hierarchy of human value, not only the girl and the woman is below the man, and then the Hindu girl and woman is below the Muslim girl and woman. And it just becomes uh, uh, an, uh, manifestation of injustice. And within the world of activism and journalism, what I want to emphasize is that there are many people who are awake to this injustice. And as Rajiv ji just mentioned, these are definitely the people with whom to build the alliances. The Pakistan Human Rights Commission has issued reports, on documenting this injustice. And these are Pakistanis and Muslims within the society who see clearly the injustice, and they face their own tyranny inside of Pakistan, trying to protect the rights of others, from the young girls and women to the religious minorities. And so what we have to do is, throughout all of our work, continue to build those kind of alliances with organizations like the Muslim Reform Movement, the Clarity Coalition, which also stands against the ideas of this Islamism and Muslim supremacy, and amplify their voices as you are doing. The work that I've been able to do as a journalist is help to bring these stories forward. I've shared in the chat an article that I edited for a platform called More to Her Story, because in the history of humanity, there is always more to the story of women and girls. And these are the stories of what happens behind those closed doors, that the identity stolen from the streets as the girl is taken into these forced marriages and forced conversions. What we try to do is document the work that is being done to help uplift the condition of the women and girls. And I'm very happy that we were able to include the work of Chingari and Rahul ji and Deepti ji, in this work, because it's only by making it real that people are going to be able to have to face this troubling facts. Rahul ji is absolutely right that a strategy of shame is unfortunately a mechanism by which you can force those that are in power and control to actually do the right thing by people. It is only, especially in our South Asian communities, this lever of shame that forces people to then try to fix problems, or at least have them go away in a way that is not embarrassing to them, even if they're not motivated by the right reasons. And so I'm very happy that, I'm able to participate in this panel, not only, as a journalist and as a person who cares about human rights, but as somebody who is part of this shared history. As you mentioned, Deepti, I've seen a human being stolen from the streets of Karachi, Pakistan, with the kidnapping and then murder of my friend Daniel Pearl. These realities are painful. They are tragic and so often unspoken. People know Danny's name, and I hope that they will know the names of the girls and young women whose lives are stolen because of this injustice. And I'm very honored to be part of this conversation so that we can first acknowledge what the problem is and then find solutions.
Thank you so much, Astra, and thanks for sharing your thoughts. You rightly said, right? Like the girls are the whole thing is so institutionalized that there is patriarchy, but there's this concept of boom jihad. Like you take away these minority girls, so not only you're reducing them in numbers, but then you're having kids with these girls or you are selling them out for sex trafficking and into sex slavery. Like we have heard stories of little girls' body parts being found on the borders where there are terrorists living. Like the stories are mind-boggling. And then we actually have another speaker who will talk about some real-life examples. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And Rahulji, go ahead. Do you have questions for Asra?
Yes, thank you, Asraji. And again, once again, a reminder to all the viewers to contribute to Hindu Pact for this extremely important cause, because that's one of the surest ways you can help in this. Now, my question to Asraji is that this is a very brave thing which you started, Asraji, in terms of the reinterpretation. What kind of challenges do you find when you try to push back against this issue of, for instance, two women's testimonies equal to one man? And what about the issue of Hindu girls being even inferior? So how do you look at that struggle which you're having when you try to make a dent in the community? What are the kind of struggles which you encounter in this, so that can benefit Hindu girls out there and reform in general? Asraji, over to you.
Yeah, the dynamics of power and control are one in which the attacks on you, as Rahulji mentioned, will always seem personal because they are meant to silence you. And I know this because when I went and challenged the issues of women's rights in our mosque in Morgantown, West Virginia, in the United States of America, I was literally put on trial and I was being banned from my mosque and my place of worship. And it was only through the strength of my own mother that I was able to literally leave the bed where I was curled in fetal position in my sense of shame, that I then stood up and faced the men that had put me on trial and raised my voice. And so I share that because in the dynamics of power and control, which is a universal dynamic, this tactic of silencing another person through acts of shame will always happen. And that's what I faced, Rahulji. What I have faced for the last 23 years of this battle is an effort to marginalize my voice and to silence my voice. And so that's why I appreciate even this affirmation from people from within my community who see these injustices and want to improve the condition for all of this world. Your objective in our conversation today is about the Hindu women and girls that are being abducted and forcibly married and converted. But that challenge is part of a wider one that is laying claim to humanity everywhere, from my hometown in West Virginia to the villages in Sindh province. And so what I want to encourage everyone to do is to always keep some inspiration as your North Star to motivate you always to action rather than paralysis. And so my image in front of me is always the image of my friend Danny Pearl, because I know his case inside out. I know 100% that he was an innocent, and that just like these young girls, he was brutally murdered. His body was cut into pieces to be found, in the shallow dirt of a corner of Karachi, where there are so many other injustices happening. And so maintain that North Star in your life so that you will always be motivated to action, and you will find something bigger than your own pain and your own suffering to motivate you. Because ultimately, this shaming that they do of us, it's temporary and it is fleeting. Just like in any meditation, we know that any pain can be, we should have a sense of non-attachment to it also, and know that it will go away if we allow it to just not define our lives. And so that's what I encourage everyone to do, because it's been 23 years. We have not succeeded yet, and the struggle must continue. That's why we're having this conversation. And so I encourage everyone to be in it for the long war that we are in.
Thank you so much, Asra, and a big hug to you. So, moving on to our third next speaker. Bhai Mohan Singh ji, thank you so much for joining us. Let's welcome him. Bhai Mohan Singh ji is a UK-based Sikh activist and founder of the Sikh Awareness Society. For over 30 years, he has fearlessly exposed grooming gangs in the UK and protected vulnerable girls, particularly from Sikh communities. His work has brought justice to countless victims, often at great personal risk. Through SAS, he provides critical support from physical protection and relocation to legal assistance for victims of all backgrounds and faith. Thank you so much for joining us, Bhai Mohan Singh ji. And a few years ago, while working on Chingari, when I came across the grooming gangs issue, something shook inside me. That is a terrible thing that is going on in UK for decades. And I would like to for you to share your experience and thoughts, and also your thoughts about the minorities in Pakistan, because these girls that are being groomed in UK, that is a tragedy. And then there are these girls in Pakistan who are like in their backyard. They are being abused every single day with no respite to legal things. So, Bhai Mohan Singh ji, please go ahead.
So first of all, thank you very much for inviting us on this panel. And we are talking about heinous crimes committed against young people. And some of the stuff that we've come across over the years, it's very hard to talk about. And it's such a massive subject, so I wouldn't really know where to start. But those who are listening to us, we have been working at street level. We have raised awareness in the gurdwaras, the Sikh places of worship. We have done over 50 mandars in the UK. We'll go to churches, we'll go anywhere where anybody invites us to raise these issues and to raise awareness, because awareness is the first line of defense against things like this. This is in the UK, it's happening up and down the country. There's not one particular town. You just have to look at the UK map. It's happened in every city, grooming gangs. These are grooming gangs. This is the terminology that was first brought out in the newspapers. But actually, they're just rape gangs rape groups where people who know each other will target young children. They'll target a vulnerability, and then that vulnerability is exploited. And one of the biggest vulnerabilities that is actually exploited, we call it love bombing in the UK and the West. I know I've had many sort of discussions with people across India and Pakistan in that sense. And in India, they call it love jihad. Certain states call it love jihad. In Holland, they call it Romeo love. So the model of love and going into somebody's heart, because the heart doesn't do any thinking and bypasses the head, it bypasses all logical thinking. So it's a very safe crime to commit, where the girl is not going to the police to complain because she perceives she's in love with the person. And why would you complain against your lover? And it's only many years afterwards, when they suffer all the abuse, and 6, 7 years after they come out of it, is when they start actually going to the authorities. So a lot of the cases in the UK have been historical cases which took place 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And I mean, when we talk about love bombing, I can talk about a case that couple of weeks ago that the Channel 4 TV production team here covered this case on national TV in the UK, where a girl went to work in a restaurant, and she was shown all the love and all the affection and everything, given free food. She had a wage. She thought these people were the best of the best. And before you know it, she was drinking with them, and then boom, drunk, raped, badly abused, and it carried on for years. This young lady can't have babies anymore because of the level of abuse they done. And I was talking to the father of the girl, and he says he can't go to sleep. So it's not just the child that's been affected. The whole family network will be affected. If I sat here and I know 5, 6 minutes won't do justice on a subject which we've been trying to deal with for over 25 years, I can sit here for 2 years in a row and roll off cases because there's been that many. Originally, we started working with the Sikh girls because Sikh Awareness Society, but Hindu girls are targeted, white Christian girls are targeted, everybody's targeted, and that's a massive concern. And our works is really down, as DP said, was to help them from the initial call and help them all the way through the healing process and also the legal process as well, so they get their justice. There was a very high-profile case that we worked on in Pakistan, and she was the daughter of one of the Gyanis, the priests, of a very historical Gurdwara that it was one which was attributed to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of Sikh faith. And the girl was then taken into care by the Pakistan government and put into safe housing because it sort of exploded. And her cousin was based in London. That's how I got involved. And the authorities gave us all the niceties. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. But that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. The girl hasn't gone back home. The girl's nowhere to be seen. Nobody even knows if she's alive or what. And every now and then we get cases where girls have been kidnapped or forcefully married. A question that you've got to ask, I don't know about the Hindu community as such, but when the partition in 1947 happened, there was 200,000 Sikhs in Pakistan. After the partition, there are now about 20,000. What's happened to 180,000? These are questions that people have got to ask. Some might have migrated out, but to lose 180,000 people from a community is just shocking. And I can't talk about the cases because they are horrific. If you can imagine, with grooming gangs, you might have one girl who's 15, 16, and she has to sleep with 5 or 6 different people, go down to different hotels, and drug and drinks and everything's involved, and and she's making money for them. She'll never see a penny. She's controlled, and the only reason they let go of you is because if you're disease-ridden, you're no use to them, then you're thrown out like garbage, and then realization hits to you, and then you're seeking your justice. But it's not just happened to one girl. This has happened to thousands and thousands of girls, white Christian girls, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, you name it. It's happened to sort of all girls. And I believe that the first line of defense is raising awareness, And we do that. We go to schools to educate, we go to universities, we go to colleges, and we go to religious places. And we try to spread the net out far and wide so we catch more people. And you know, we're sort of fighting this kind of battle with one hand tied behind your backs, really, because it's a very, very hard battle. But we will carry on doing it, and the awareness is key to all this, because prevention is better than the cure. So these are heinous crimes, and sometimes you can't even sort of, when you hear about a new case or what's happened to the child, you know what? When you close your eyes, that video is played over and over in your head, and it sort of messes with you as well. So awareness for us is the key, where we can prevent this from happening. Tell our youngsters, tell, you know, what to expect and everything like that, so they're better prepared when they actually are on the streets of the UK or in their colleges or in their schools. I don't really know what more to say. I have done a lot of work in India as well. We do get calls from around the world. I've been to America. I've done, you know, we've sort of done lectures in 22 different states of America, in Canada. The Sikh Awareness Society is a global organization, and wherever we get a case, we then go and help that particular person. And it's not just about helping the girl, it's helping the whole family around the trauma of maybe losing their child, and also to understand what's really happening as well. So there's a lot of work involved in this. And if anybody wants to ask me a question, that would probably be better. But you have recently, I think months ago, you've had even Elon Musk, the person who runs X and Tesla, even he sort of tweeted a tweet regarding the rape gangs of the UK. It's a phenomena that the whole world knows, and there is a pattern, there is a model there that's used in every other country as well.
Thank you so much,
So I think
Bhuvan
it's over
Singh.
to you guys.
Yeah.
Whatever question you have, we can answer. And
Yeah. No, we feel blessed for souls like you who are doing an excellent job. And, you know, there were a couple of cases from grooming gangs that haunt me, and that my heart sinks. Like there was one, and we are talking about girls of, you know, 12, 13-year-old girls. And in Pakistan, they're like
yeah, that's the
8.
main target. The target age is from about 11 to 15, a very crucial age. And also, girls are easily targeted at that time because of puberty hit, and you have a hormonal imbalance and everything. And it's sort of, I mean, I've dealt with cases where 6-year-old girls have been sexually abused badly, but majority of our cases are between 11 and 15.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this one 12-year-old girl, and I'm sorry to share these details, but she was nailed by her tongue while she was being gang raped. It is like, it's just, the horror is unimaginable. And there was this
It's
other girl.
unimaginable. If people listening on this app now, you could just Google the Oxford grooming case. And I remember I was in court for that one up at the Old Bailey, which is the biggest court in London. And when we heard, when the girl was 11 years old, they in one room with about 7, 8 people, and they stripped her down. They poured paraffin over her, and they
Yes.
was gonna light her up, and if she didn't do certain things, and then they bent her over, took her hairpin out, and molded it into an M, heated it up, and then they branded that child. And the leader of the gang was called Mohammed Karar. And so he branded her, "You are my property." And that girl from the age 11 to 18 had to sleep with so many different people she doesn't even know, because half the time she was drugged and under alcohol. And it took one girl to raise her voice. But in court, it was said that they were controlling 330 odd girls. So it took the bravery of one girl to put this gang behind bars. Um, if you look at the UK, a small town, Rotherham, which is a very small town, 1,400 girls were sexually abused because the authorities turned a blind eye. Telford is another area. 1,000 girls have been sexually abused. And you got to take these figures lightly as well, because only 13% of sexual assault in the UK ever gets reported. What's happening to the 87 who never report it and suffer in silence? So these kind of platforms which raises voices for the voiceless is I just hats off to you guys for raising your voice, and whatever you can do, it's about saving that one person. It's about saving that one person. And you know what? These are the real superheroes. We see films of Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and all this stuff. But when you're trying to save humanity, when you're saving children and trying to give them a better future, you are the real superheroes of this world.
Oh, thank you so much, Bhai Singh ji. But when we look at these girls in Pakistan, like they don't even have that legal recourse, right? And you rightly said it's not just the girl, it's the entire family. Like imagine you have a daughter, somebody comes to your house and takes her away. Like that's so painful to hear. Like there's no even legal, they cannot even go and file an FIR because it's an institutionalized crime. It is like uh, I can go on, but I think, yeah.
Yeah, the case that I was talking about, sorry
Yeah.
to stop you, but the case I was talking about happened in the time of Imran Khan.
Yes.
Now, Imran Khan is a very influential person, and we loved him for his cricket and everything, and for his dynamic leadership and everything. And we
Yes.
were directly talking to Imran Khan regarding this issue. And you know what? Nothing came of it.
Yeah.
So the system there is probably going to be very, very hard to crack. And I know we spoke about the UN and we spoke about other issues, but then you've got to look back at what was happening in Iraq 5 years ago, when Kurdish girls were taken and into slavery, and there's a lot of talk shops. People talk about the subject, but they don't really actually do anything about it. And that's my biggest anger towards organizations like the United Nations and stuff like that, is that they all know the issues, but yet are very reluctant to really put their foot down and try to do something about it.
Yeah. No, and
Dipti,
I'm
Dipti
so
ji,
thankful. Yeah.
Dipti, can I ask a quick question?
We'll take the questions after the panel.
Okay,
So
fine.
yeah. So Rahulji, do you have any question for Bhai Mohan Singh ji?
I was just wondering if he saw any commonalities between the grooming gangs in Pakistan and the grooming gangs in the UK.
No, I think they're using this one. If you look at all the grooming cases, they use this one thing, and that's the love bombing technique. That's been used in every country. Okay, like I said, in India they call it love jihad. In Holland they call it Romeo love. In Europe they call it Romeo love. We call it love bombing here. So they try to get inside the heart of a person And then because once in the heart, the logical brain is kicked, and you become the best person. You're the best thing since sliced bread. Nobody loves you as much as this guy does. And so all the affection, there's a model of grooming which is used in every country. They will target you, they will gain your trust, they will fulfill your needs, then they will start isolating you, then they will either sexualize you or convert you, and then it's total control. But once the child passes the phase 3 of giving gifts, if the child reaches that point, you have lost your child.
Okay, thank
So
you very much.
this same model is used across countries.
Thank you. So before we go to the next speaker, again, an urgent, humble appeal to everybody, please donate, because that is, money can be used for good things, indifferent things, but money can be used for worthy causes. This is a worthy cause, ladies and gentlemen, all who's joined us. Thank you very much. Back to Dipti, and Dipti for the next speaker, please.
Thank you. Next, we have, Michael, do you want to go next? Because I know that you have to leave early.
If that's, yeah, all right. I'm happy to.
Okay. So I would like to welcome Michael Sherlock. Michael is a fearless rationalist and human rights advocate known for his outspoken stance against blasphemy laws, supported by voices like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. He challenges ideological extremism, including postmodernist and neo-Marxist thoughts. A former executive director of Atheist Alliance International, Michael has authored several books and holds a master's in religion. He's also been instrumental in helping Muslims and ex-Muslims escape persecution and serves on multiple advocacy boards championing free speech and women's rights. Michael, floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Deepti, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak on this really important issue. For me, I have a 15-year-old daughter, so this has a very a visceral feel to it for me, because I can't even imagine if these things were to happen to my daughter, the emotions I would go through as a father. And then to put me in a cultural and religious context where I have absolutely no power to stop it. When the courts are lending, approval to this type of pedophilia, this type of sexual grooming, this type of rape, this type of human rights abuses that take away the choice of the children and their families by forcibly converting them to the religion of Islam or whatever the religion may be, but in this case, it's only Islam. I just can't begin to understand how I would cope in that situation as a father. And I've seen footage of, the young girls being dragged away and the father holding onto their father's arms and crying, "Papa, Papa, I want to come home with you." And then even seeing that footage, the courts will declare that no, the young girl who was not even of age consented to converting to Islam. She consented to marrying this middle-aged pervert. And it's just, it blows my mind. And it does, there are a lot of, I think, parallels between the UK rape gangs and the one in Pakistan. Not just that, oh, sorry, my camera just went crazy. Not just that the perpetrators are Pakistani, both Pakistani, obviously, in both cases, and both Sunni Muslims, but that they adhere to a type of Islam, and it's an Islam supported by the Quran. It is an Islam supported by the Sunnah and the Sirah of Muhammad. They conform to a form of exclusivist and expansionist Islam that holds that the ends justify the means regardless of the atrocity of the means themselves. That is, we need to convert the entire world to Islam, and until we do that, there is a risk of fitna. And this fitna pathology, which I honed in on my thesis, because my area of, study within my master's primarily focused on blasphemy in the Muslim world and comparing that to the concept of blasphemy in the Christian world. And the modern concept of blasphemy in Islam relates very closely to the pre-Nicene Council concept of blasphemy in early Christianity, before Christianity became Catholicism and then later Protestantism, when there are lots of different Christianities running around. Some sects of Christianity prior to the 4th century believed in 360 gods. Some believed that Yahweh was the evil spirit and that Jesus was the true God. There were so many varieties of Christianity, but they were desperate to create a uniformed version of Christianity in order that that religion can spread. And they did that by converting the emperor at the time, Constantine, who had his own pet priest, Eusebius. And they took over essentially the Christian narrative and they turned it into Catholicism, or the universal church, which is Catholicism. Now, that's back then, blasphemy was anything that would disrupt Christian unity. And we see the same pathology in current Islam. Anything that would be considered to disrupt the quote unquote unity of the ummah, of the global Muslim community, any fitna, any disharmony. And it's a real pathology. You're selling people this idea that unless we can convert the entire world to Islam, there is always a chance of chaos. And if there's a chance of chaos, then the whole world is going to go to hell and everything's going to be horrible. There's going to be injustice. There's going to be terror. So anything we need to do in order to achieve unity within the ummah, in order to spread Islam as the only religion, that is the only religion is the religion of Allah, then anything is justified, because the alternative is hell on earth. This is the pathology that is, I believe, at the heart of, and Rajiv was talking about, we need to isolate what's the heart in terms of what are the NGOs that should be speaking up that aren't speaking up. And then Rajiv also brought up, well, let's look at the 1200-year history of the caliphate that's existed under the Ottoman Empire, etc., and prior to, and breaking down in post-World War I, 1924-ish. And then you look at the flourishing of human freedom after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and you can see it in places like Iran, even Palestine, or current called Palestine today. It wasn't Palestine back then. But you look at the flourishing of human freedom in Islamic societies, and they were very westernized, very liberal in their mode of living. And then once you have this resurgence of this Islamist ideology, which is now essentially the Muslim Brotherhood are pushing that globally, and through financial and media wings like out of Qatar, for example, who are massive funders of American and Australian universities. They've got their fingers in the media. They've got their fingers in the UN now. And when I was executive director of Atheist Alliance International, I worked with the Human Rights Council, and I can tell you they are completely almost captured. There are special rapporteurs who aren't captured, and like, for example, they're the ones writing the reports on the problem in Pakistan with these these kids. Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Sorry, having camera issues. They're having these rapporteurs who are writing the reports in Pakistan, who are Sunni Muslims, who are liberal thinking Muslims, but they're not captured by this Islamist ideology. And like someone said, we need to be forming coalitions and collaborating with these types of people. And that's what I did when I was prior to being executive director of Atheist Alliance International, and when I had my own small human rights organization that was fighting against blasphemy laws, particularly in Pakistan, but other Muslim countries. We need to be collaborating with these types of people, because the global caliphate is rising. And I know it sounds alarmist. I know it sounds like a conspiracy to a lot of people. But if you look at the grooming gangs in the UK, if you look at what's happening in Australia with the Free Palestine movement, and the Free Palestine movement has become a sort of Trojan horse for Islamism to come into the West. Because as I think Asra has written about, and a lot of other commentators have written about, there is this unholy alliance between the West and left, particularly the postmodernist and neo-Marxist left, and Islamism, that is far-right Islamic thought. Those two bodies of extremists work very well together and have historically worked very well together until the point at which the Islamists gain power, and then they, like in Iran, they kill the Marxists, they kill the communists, they kill the leftists, and then they just take the power from the gates that were open for them by these far left-wing extremists. So sorry, I guess I'm all over the show, but it's past 1 a.m. here. But yeah, I'd say, just recapping, for me personally, I've got a 15-year-old daughter. And this hits really hard for me. Secondly, my work as a human rights activist, and particularly working with liberal Muslims and ex-Muslims in Pakistan, and I've worked on asylum cases where I've had to get people out of Pakistan. And one of the asylum cases I actually had to submit testimony for, I was helping someone get into New Zealand, but the asylum, I guess, gatekeeper at the time that the New Zealand government thought would be best positioned to analyse this ex-Muslim's asylum claim in New Zealand was a hijabi Sunni Muslim from Pakistan, and he was charged with blasphemy in Pakistan. He escaped in time, but he was going to be sent back because the hijabi Muslim who had analysed his case said, "Well, you claim to be a humanist. Can you recite the Declaration of the Netherlands, of the Humanist Declaration? If not, then you're not a humanist." And I simply told him to respond to her, recite the verses and versions of the Quran when I give you those verses and versions. If you can't do that, then you're not a Muslim. And that's how absurd your argument is right now. So she was attempting to send him back to Pakistan, where he was going to be, put on death row, all because he couldn't recite the humanist creed. And this to her was proof that he was not actually a humanist. His claim was not legitimate. Therefore, he was just a run-of-the-mill criminal from Pakistan who should go back and face the death penalty for blasphemy. So when you have the worldwide institutions and global governments like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the US, who are captured by far left ideology, and this far left ideology has swung open the gates for Islamists to come in and dictate the narrative that this is true Islam, is Islamist Islam. It is exclusivist, it is expansionist, it doesn't need to be tolerant. And that when you've got this, all cultures are equal, and we should understand through cultural relativism that we should respect that extremist nature of Islam, and the woman in the niqab represents a really pious and real pure form of Islam, when then that's not the case. The niqab, the burqa, these are all aberrations. And if you read the scriptural justification for the hijab itself, it was to cover the breast, not the head. Even though they commonly wear it on the head, and that had social and, had environmental functions. But it's been distorted, it's been hijacked by a more, I guess, radical, what you'd call Islamists. You see this perversion of radical Islam and radical far leftism working hand in hand to essentially destroy the West and right now destroy Israel so they can get to the West. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the conflict between Palestine and Israel, is that Israel is essentially holding back the floodgates at the moment. And what they're holding back is an increase in these rape gangs, is an increase in Hindu and Christian girls or Ahmadiyya Muslim girls stolen from their parents, because at the end of the day, the ends justify the means. And this type of Islam is a violent, pedophile, sex and death cult. And I'll leave it there for now.
No, I think you said so many right things, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And again, I keep coming back that Western countries, people are doing things with whether they are guilt-driven or they are ignorant. Again, I come back to Pakistan and say that these people are poorest of poor, right? Like these girls are, they have no identity. These families have no identity. Like I've heard cases where if the family goes to the court, they are 15 people against 1,500, and those 1,500 are armed. Like there is no legal respite. The court is not with them. The police is not with them. There is no legal recourse for these girls. But I mean, you said so many right things. There are so many different reasons for this to be happening, right? Um, but okay, I'm gonna pass it to Rahulji. Rahulji, do you have questions for Michael?
No, the only thing which I'd like to ask him is that from his point of view, rationalist and atheist point of view, how does he see that philosophy being able to address and possibly ameliorate the situation in Pakistan? And of course, an appeal to all the listeners that this is a really worthy cause as you listen to the fascinating viewpoints and valuable viewpoints of our panelists. Please donate. And so, Michael, that's my question to you. Where do you see atheism and rationality helping the poor, voiceless girls and women of Pakistan?
Well, I guess I'm going to come. I've got my bias, and I acknowledge my bias here. I'm of the opinion that when you take a rationalist approach and when you take a humanist approach to these problems, you have a much better chance of solving them than if you take a religious approach. Having said that, there are qualifiers. The qualifiers would be there are Sunni Muslims in Pakistan who are fighting against this. There are groups like this group now, Hindu groups, who are fighting against this. And these people are motivated by their interpretation of their religion, right? So we can't discount that reality from my point of view. But from my point of view, when we subtract that which is irrational, and we set aside that which is irrational, when we set aside that which is illogical, when we focus on our shared humanity, regardless of our own tribes, regardless of our own, whether we're Hindus, whether we're Muslim, whether we're Christian, whether we're atheist, that's where the value of, I'd say, my atheist approach would come in, is that, like in the words of the old deist Thomas Paine, you know, the world is my church, and all humankind is my brethren. That is, all mankind is my brethren. So I don't care if you're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, whatever. Because I'm an atheist, I can look past your religion and I can see the problem, the nuts and bolts of the problem. What is the problem here? We have young girls stolen from their families, subjected to horrific treatment. Even for a grown woman shouldn't experience this treatment, but let alone a young girl. You know, these are atrocities that I think you don't need to be religious to see that they're wrong. They are functionally and logically and practically and morally and ethically in every single way. They run contrary to our instincts as human beings. They run contrary to our evolved instincts of reciprocity, of protecting our young, to ensure that our species survives, to creating societies in which everyone feels safe, because societies in which everyone feels safe and heard are the societies that dominate intellectually, financially, culturally. These are the societies that will do the best. So when you start to hamstring these societies and you create this disunity because you're so scared yourself of fitna, you know, you're so scared of fitna that, there's going to be chaos if not everyone believes my version of Islam. Well, then you end up being the source of that chaos. That is, the fear that you have attracts the thing you're afraid of. And this is the biggest problem with these cultists, in my opinion. And that's what I can see as an atheist. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Michael.
Yeah, back to you, Deepti.
Yeah. So like Michael was saying, right, we have to stand together. It's not about us. It's about saving girls, saving human rights. So I would like to appeal to everybody who's joined us today. Please help us. Please donate. Please support us. because we have a long way to go. There are so many things that we can do, and we can do it together. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna go and over to our next speaker, Nikhil Chandwani. Welcome, Nikhil ji. Dr. Nikhil Chandwani is a best-selling author of The Modern Day Hindu and a dynamic voice for Hindu resilience. He's an award-winning entrepreneur running a sustainable biochemical facility in Nagpur and was honored by Prime Minister as well. Nikhil has represented India diplomatically in Israel, founded NYK Daily, and led rescue missions that have helped over 9,000 persecuted Hindus flee from Pakistan. With a powerful media presence and global impact, his work spans literature, policy, environment, and human rights. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have been connected with Nikhil. You doing a phenomenal job. Over to you, Nikhil.
Namaskar, ma'am. I'm just 31 and I have been hearing so many amazing speakers speak about the reality of the plight of Hindus in Pakistan, and that is something I, as a viewer, was able to learn a lot from. So, today I would like to share the on-ground journey that we had started in 2017. And till 2017, I was a writer. I used to write long form articles talking about the plight of Hindus in Pakistan. And we used to record and present all the forced conversion videos. And we used to put it up on social media. I had an amazing column with Times of India and Times of Israel where we used to cover these articles. But in 2017, on my Facebook, I was approached by a guy who told me that online activism is something that is not what the interior sin needs, at least from people who are living in India. And that struck me. And since then, since 2017, we started a journey of rescuing Hindus. Ominder Ratnuji was one of our major inspiration, and I had a word with him about how to go about the process. We came to know that there are a lot of Hindus from Bhil, Megwar community. They were trying to apply for Indian passports. They were trying to apply for Pakistani passports and Indian visa for 3 to 4 generations, but they were unable to do that because they didn't have permanent addresses. Without a permanent address, nobody in the world can get a passport. And we tried to solve that by creating a web of around 150 different Hindu temples in Sindh. And since then, once that web was created, uh, the land surrounding the Hindu temple was under the temple control, and that became the permanent address for these Hindus to apply for their Pakistani passports. So from 2017 to 2025, we ran this journey, and till now we have rescued around 2,000 Hindu families, which are well settled in Delhi, Jodhpur, and Jaisalmer. But now, since the borders are closed, Dipti ma'am, we have been discussing that in our groups now, where there was this very, very painful story of Sunny. This kid, Sunny, he's trying to get his uh, uh, he's trying to get his sister back from the kidnappers. His sister was kidnapped by the Mia
Okay.
Mittu's men in Ghotki. Mia Mittu is one of the guy who has forcefully converted over 10,000 Hindu and Sikh girls. So Mia Mittu's men from Ghotki had kidnapped Sunny's sister, and this case was also
Simran Kumari.
Simran Kumari. Yeah, and her name was changed to Aisha now. She was 16. Her birth certificate was fake, and she was shown as 22. And right now, as we speak, uh, she's pregnant for the fourth time. Sunny recently met her, and he gave us this information. And even though this case was registered in UN, it's all over the UN websites and social medias, but nothing has happened. The needle hasn't moved. And this has been like seeing this on social media and seeing this online has made me realize that the life of a Hindu girl matters only after she's forcefully converted.
Not even then, Nikhil.
Not even then, yes, sadly, not even then, as you say, because when we when we actually see what's happening on ground, these refugees, the video that I had shared with you, can we show it here?
Yeah.
Can we show it here? Then I'll start with it. Yeah.
और वहाँ धर्म बदलवा रहे थे जबरदस्ती।
हाँ उधर अपना क्या ना, पहले तो सही था थोड़ा थोड़ा, अभी बहुत दिक्कत हो रही है।
हमारी नस्लें वहाँ बर्बाद हो गई। अच्छी अच्छी बेटियाँ, खूबसूरत हमारी बहनें, खूबसूरत बेटियाँ कन्वर्ट हो गई वहाँ पर। क्यों? अभी हम बताएं तो क्या बताएं?
लड़की जवान मर गई, 4 बच्चे उसका, लड़की का, तो उसका खाना सब वहीं रह गए।
4 बेटियां उधर है,
4 बेटियां उधर है।
हाँ, शादी किया हुआ, एक बेटे को लेके आई और इधर आके मैंने मेरे बेटे की शादी किया, उसमें पोती हुई।
अभी हिंदू होने में हमें परमात्मा को हमसे जाके लड़े तो हम हिंदू क्यों बने? अभी बांग्लादेश से भी देखिए मैम, हिंदू ही बेदखल है। आखिर क्यों? इनसे भी बुरी हालत है बांग्लादेश के हिंदुओं की, इससे बुरी हालत है पाकिस्तान के हिंदुओं की। आखिर इन लोगों का कसूर क्या है? गवर्नमेंट इस विषय में निर्णय क्यों नहीं ले रही है, सोच क्यों नहीं रही है? उनसे बाहर निकलिए, यहाँ जमीनी हकाइक को देखें कि हम लोगों के साथ क्या हो रहा है।
So this was from a refugee camp in Delhi. It's below Signature Bridge in Wazirabad. If anybody who is visiting Delhi, please visit our camps. You'll love it over there. The girls who were sexually exploited in Pakistan right now, under the free land of Bharat, they are making croissants and they know how to bake breads and they have been rehabilitated. So with the rescue wala work, like I want to end that rescue wala work and talk about the plight of Hindus now. So that will be something which I want to share my light on. Now, Dipti ma'am, in a world basically where the pain of the oppressed is often ignored, the suffering of these Hindu girls in Pakistan, it's truly heartbreaking. Many are being kidnapped, they are forced to give up their faith, and they are taken away from their families to live life with fear and pain. It's extremely hard, impossible to understand how such cruelty is allowed to continue, and even harder to ignore it. No media is covering it. I have been begging all the media platforms for the past 8 to 9 years. I myself, I'm an influencer with around 2 million followers, and we reach 100 million people every month. But when I post it, not a single media platform, not a single other influencer, they even care to reshare because it won't fetch them likes, it won't fetch them views, and that's the sad reality we are living in. And when you talk about the Pakistani justice system, a lot has been said about the justice system by past speakers, but this system, which should protect the innocent, it is hiding the truth. It is destroying evidences and punishing those who are speaking out. As we know about Sunny right now, his life is under threat. He wants to run. He's unable to escape. The borders are closed. His sister is gone. His mother is very sick, but the justice system is still not allowing his sister to meet him. And the brave activist, there was this guy called Chaman Lal. I have his medical reports right now, and he was beaten up left, right, and center when he tried to speak about the forced conversion stories. Now he has moved to Dubai and he's living a silent life over there, but he's silenced. He's unable to meet his family, and that's the reality. That's the reality of Pakistan. So
Thank you
this.
so much, Nikhil. Yeah, just shedding our light back to Sunny, the UN complaint that Rahul Surji talked about in the beginning, we filed that UN complaint on behalf of Sunny, and he's an amazing, brave boy, and hats off. And I think that's the reason why we tie Rakhis to our brothers, right? he's fighting day in day out for Simran, and every single day, like I know you and I keep getting messages, from him, any updates, and sadly, it's sad that we don't have any updates for him. But and then and one more thing, Nikhil, I remember you sharing one of those cases where this one gentleman in Pakistan, his wife was raped by one Muslim man in the town, and she died. And this man had the audacity of coming back to this father of two girls whose wife has already died, who was been raped. And this guy asked, like, give me both of your daughters. I will take them anyways. You don't have any right, or you'll not have any control. And this old man went to the desert. He dug a hole in the ground, kept his daughters there for 3 months before he could get them rescued. These stories are, my heart and my mind, it just everything goes blank. How is this happening in this world
Um,
where we are living our lives, I don't know, in what luxury compared to this?
when I
So,
go to camps, when I go to these camps, and when I meet our rescued Hindus, the girls are scared of our shadows. Like as
yeah,
men, when we go over there, वो डर जाते, they just run back, and we understand what has happened with them, and that is truly heartbreaking. And I am somebody who tried really hard to go online and go hardcore with this. We try to share it everywhere. We try to talk about this everywhere, but sadly, there has been awkward, long silence. And
yes,
that's when we had decided the rescue work that we do, it has always been self-funded. And I run a biomass pellet factory that funds my rescue work. And silently, we have been trying to get them here before something bad happens.
yes.
Priorities
And
are
yeah,
for families with girls. So that's the priority that we have, and that's something we are just trying to do silently.
thank you so much for everything you're doing, Nikhil. And I've been to these camps, and the lives, I mean, at least they're better off in India and Bharat, right? But what about the girls who are still back in, and girls and their families who are still back in Pakistan? Rahul, any question?
My question is, since he comes from Sindh, and Sindh was it was very, very rich in Hindu temples. And I remember when I started my career as an IPS officer, in Thane, you used to have Sindhis coming out there in Thane and staying out there. So I just wanted his views because Sindh, we have Sindh in our national anthem. So I just wanted his views as a Sindhi who's raising his voice and awareness about this issue, whether he has anything special on this, Nikhil.
On the Sindhi Hindus who are living in India right now, or
Yeah,
Sindhu.
yeah, I'm talking about the Sindhi Hindus living in India. What
Mhm.
do you feel is their reaction to this going on? And
Honestly,
is it a part of their the painful history? Do you see any awareness about this?
so
What is
honest,
your view?
yes, honestly, I've come across a lot of Sindhi groups, and all the Sindhi organizations in India right now are focused only on preserving the language, not the people. And that is the sad reality of the Sindhi Hindus who are living in Indian communities now. They are not focused on rescuing people. They are not focused on trying to get our Hindu brothers and sisters who were left behind in sin here, because the people who are left behind, they are mostly from the Bhil and the Megwar community. And the Sindhi Hindus who came over here, we all came here because we were from Karachi, and uh, we had enough knowledge and money to migrate to India. The people who couldn't migrate, they had no idea partition had happened in 1947. The Bhils and the Megwar, they had no idea. They live in interior Sindh. They came to know about partition after 1971. And the Sindhi Hindus here, they have sadly, like mostly in Mumbai, the Mumbai-based Sindhi Hindus, they have alienated all Sindhis who are living in Sindh right now.
Very unfortunate, but thank you for that information. I'll now just give it back to Dipti. Dipti, if you could just read out the questions which have participants had asked and ask the participant, which panel member they would like the answer from.
So, Rahulji, do you have the questions up? Give me
Yeah,
one
okay.
second. And I actually wanted to, one quick second here. So I
Dipti,
just
you can
wanted
see the
to,
questions.
yeah, somebody will have to spell them out.
Read
There are several open questions.
Ajay, who's reading out the questions?
I'd be glad to. So the first question is from Shri Vedji and says, "Good morning, all eminence. If it is no more a secret of our enemies' practices and their establishment, we as Sanatanis, what we must establish so that we all agree together, stay together, and fight our enemy together, so we can protect our Sanati girls from our dharma." So basically, they're asking, what should we be doing together? That is the question, and it's directed to any of the panelists as to what should be our action item. And I'll take this moment, Diptiji, to remind everyone that we can certainly, for this project and similar projects, we can certainly use everyone's contribution. So please go to the link in the chat, and if you can just make a small contribution, we'd be really grateful. Diptiji, next, back to you.
Yes, any panelists would like to take that question?
The easy answer to this, if I can sort of, we need to take religion out, and there is a gentleman, an atheist, who said it wonderfully, is that we need to take all religions out and work at a human level, and we need to work with like-minded people, like-minded groups, and a united front. And our scriptures start with the word ik. So we're all one. We've all emanated from the same God, and we've all got the same goal. So we just need to work at a human level, and maybe keep religion to one side, but just what's happening to all girls, all children, how they have been raped and tortured and everything like that. We just need to work as one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The next question is from
I
Jaya.
think Asraji was trying to say something.
Oh, sorry. Asra, go ahead. Asra, you're muted.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that I had to just Google search what Sanatani means. And so I think to the point that was just made, it is really important. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's used as, I think, as a term for like a deeper version of being Hindu, but you could explain it better than me. But I think it is really important to make it a universal declaration. You have to inspire your own community, of course, to care. But obviously, when the Hindu girls and women are being targeted, so are the Christian girls and the Ahmadis, the Ismailis. It's all sectarianism, right? It's all about hierarchy of human value. And in that hierarchy of human value, a Muslim girl is also targeted, because a Muslim girl who doesn't practice the type of interpretation that these men who want to control them do. I just finished editing a story also for the website, more to her story, about how Sindhi Muslim families are now selling their daughters in marriage to older men, because they have debts from the flood that they have to repay. And the floods of the last few years have also, devastated their crop. And so this is about predatory behavior. Like, this is exactly why this grooming gangs analogy is relevant to what's happening in Pakistan, because ultimately predatory behavior used targets anybody who's weak and vulnerable in power. And so that's who I think the alignment needs to be, is with people who care about helping those that are powerless or don't have power in communities. And so the humanity is the best way to appeal to this cause and further it, make it universal.
Thank you so much, Asra. And that's the reason why, there are people like Nikhil and people like Umed Ratnuji who are doing some things on the grounds. And then we are, through Chingari and through all of us here, we are trying to make this as a global appeal because Pakistan as a country is not doing anything and we don't expect them to do anything. So there needs to be a global coalition, a global, pressure from all the Western countries and from people. What is happening? And when you mentioned floods, there were Hindu families and Christian and Sikh families in smaller villages, and little girls and women were raped for half a kg of rice. It was like I cannot even imagine how can any human do this to somebody else. So that predatory nature that you're talking about, Asar, that's so spot on. So I'm going to go and ask another question. And thank you so much, Jaya, for joining this. And I'm so glad that we have been connected. But Jaya brings up these questions like, what concrete steps must be taken, or what can be the entry points, since this issue is already highlighted at UN, but we don't see any progress or any action against forced conversions? So any panelist wants to take that question?
So I'll just say that it's nice to see that you are making a call to action in supporting the organization also, Chinghari, because at the end of the day, I'm a journalist, so I'm a little bit biased about this, but I think that media campaigns are critical in winning in the court of public opinion. These are ultimately, to me, injustices of law that must also be won in a court of law, right? But what I was told a long time ago when I was going to take the LSAT was that you have to win in the court of public opinion to win in the court of law. And so I want to encourage people to support Chinghari as an organization also. So support with your dollars and your donations if you can also, because I know that you cannot activate this big public media campaign without being able to get the graphic designers, to get the videos created, to maybe, get a public relations person to place people to speak about these issues on national and international TV programs. An ultimate win for your campaign and for this campaign is to get on international media platforms. And in order to do that, you have to have a very clear media strategy. And so that sometimes means being able to hire a public relations person or having somebody on staff who is a media person. These are organizations that are putting forward campaigns in the world on issues of human rights that have multi-million-dollar budgets. And so I don't know the budget of Chinghari, but I imagine it's not at that level. And so I just wanted to emphasize that, it does require spending money to be able to amplify voices, because that's how people get on Christian Amanpour, is that they have a booking agent who places an op-ed in Newsweek or not one of the BBC.com or just something that then allows you to get that third-party validation of your cause. And so I just really want to encourage the media campaigning on this, because that's really important to raise consciousness and then do that shaming that Rajiv mentioned earlier, and actualize the policy changes that you want to see.
Thank you so much, Asra. Thanks for your support.
Yes.
I know that a couple of people had raised their hands.
Yeah, and also there's one specific question, Dipti, if you can answer that, and that was the question: can you push for recovery of Priya Kumari? So if you want to just quickly answer that, and then we can go to
Yes.
live questions of people who have raised their hands.
Yes, so we have actually raised our first conclave was about, oh, sorry, second conclave was about Priya Kumari, and our first conclave was about Chanda Maharaj, and we have done our UN complaint for Simran Kumari. So we keep I mean, this week itself, I have received 8 cases. And again, like Bhai Mohan Singh ji was saying, right, only 13% of the cases are actually reported. And I don't know what's the percentage of the cases being reported in Pakistan. So these Priya Kumari was 9 years old when she was taken. Simran Kumari was 15. Chanda Maharaj was 15. So I know that I know the age of these girls who have been taken, and we definitely keep making appeals for these little girls to be returned home in whatever condition. Just send them back home. I know that there was a hand raised by um, Atul. Is Atul still here? And Geeta Sikand. Okay.
And there's one more, Lakshmi ji.
Lakshmi, I think she posted a question like
No,
who's
the
the
hand raised as well. There's
Yeah, I
also
think she had her question in the chat. I can read it out. Like, who's the bigger
okay.
villain? And I can open it up for the panelists. Who is the bigger villain here? Is it the left? Is it the jihadi mentality? Like, and I would let the panelists answer this question, but I think we are also a big villain if we keep quiet on this issue. So anybody from the panel wants to answer this question?
I'll answer it. Basically, the left and the community at large, the Pakistani community, are at fault here. But then when we turn a blind eye to these kind of things, we are also aiding and abetting them as well. So that is my answer. The left have hidden so many crimes for the last 40 years in the UK. It's unbelievable. And the current Prime Minister was actually on the Crown Prosecution Service when he stopped so many cases going to court. So we're up against a very, very big machine, a very big setup. And I will say that the left are 100% to blame, and also the people that are doing it are 100% to blame. And those that know the issue but yet avoid talking about it are also aiding and abetting the perpetrators.
Thank you so much, Bhai Mohan Singh ji. And I remember that Suela Baberman was, when she spoke about it, she was dismissed. And now in Rotherham, where, Jane Senior had brought up this, and by the way, Jane Senior was my first keynote speaker in the first Chingari conclave. The city where the whistleblower blowing happened has a mayor who comes from that community. Like, how ignorant, how bad can we be in ignoring this issue? But thank you so much, Bhai Mohan Singh ji. That was excellent. Do we have any other call?
Yeah, they just promoted people who have questions to panelists, so they can directly ask questions. So I want to. So there are 3 people who have asked questions. So Preeti is first one. Then Lakshmi ji is next. Preeti ji, Lakshmi ji, and there is one more. So Keshav ji. So yeah, please go ahead. Start with Preeti ji first.
Hi, my question is for Asra. Asra, I'm like generally appalled by the fact that we don't see a lot of Muslim women, educated, aware Muslim women speaking up against any of these issues. Why do you think that is the case? Why don't we see more Muslim women coming out and speaking against it?
Yeah, thank you, Preeti, for asking the question. And, I think this speaks to the earlier question, too, about responsibility and who to, who's basically betraying their values. The Islamists are operating like we expect them to operate. They are actually authentic in their value system. Theirs is a value of supremacy and a hierarchy of human value. The leftists are betraying their so-called liberal, values of human rights. And to your question, Muslim women who are especially, enjoying and practicing interpretations of Islam where we are first-class citizens in Western society, especially we speak our voices, we have jobs. Like, I think we are betraying the values by which we're living our lives and ultimately the deepest hypocrites in not standing up for these women and girls. So why not? Because of the same mechanisms of power and control that are used to subvert these women's rights and girls' rights. I told you one anecdote about what the men at my mosque did just because I dared to take the radical action of walking through the front door of the mosque. And they put me on trial. I went into the main hall. And what was I inspired by? I was actually inspired by traveling through Kathmandu and through India, through the temples. I went to the Shakti Peeths and I saw all of a sudden that women were right there at the front next to the mandir. And I thought, why can't I practice that in my Islam and in my mosques? And so that's when I went into the front door and into the main hall. So you inspired me to action from the practices of Hinduism today and through history. So why don't they act? Because they are shamed, they are belittled when they dare to challenge the status quo in our communities. But I also hold them responsible for realizing for other women the same rights we enjoy. The shining lights that I will tell you are women like Raheel Raza. She's in Canada, and I'll just give you these names so that you could follow them if you don't already. They're all members of the Clarity Coalition. Surya Deen, she's from Sri Lanka. She fights from Nigeria to Pakistan and her native Sri Lanka for these rights. We have ex-Muslims like Yasmin Muhammad who participated in Chingari efforts before, but I could count them on two hands. So your point is completely correct that the number of women, especially that are feminists within Islam today, forget feminists in the world, are not speaking up enough. And what we have to do is, just like you have to win in the court of public opinion, we have to normalize, women's rights and human rights. I'm sure that it's the same experience in the UK against the grooming gangs with Muslim women not speaking up enough for the rights of the girls and young women who are being exploited. And so this is the world over that we have to empower them by normalizing our values and making our chatter about this issue so prevailing that we become the collective voices, of the world. And so that's why it's so important, even in our small numbers, to speak with strength and courage, because then I learned this on many things, that courage is contagious and other people will see that our voices are speaking up and then they'll find the strength themselves.
Lakshmiji is next, Dipti.
Yes. Thank you, Asra.
Thank you so very much. And it was such an instructive and heartbreaking event. I am an academic, and so for Asraji and for Bhai Mohanji, I was the one who asked the question, who is a bigger villain, the left or the jihadis? So in fact, I would have liked to have asked the question to the other gentleman from UK who spoke about being an atheist. It is under the banner of atheism that the left is pampering the my God, one God world. The no God world is the one that is actually pampering. So second question to Asraji, you mentioned about media campaign. As an academic surrounded by these lefties, I can't even raise my voice in my own department. And I'm not actually a scared person. It's just that it is so, that voice is so loud that it is virtually nobody will hear you out. Even before you open your mouth, you're already branded as whatever, rightist and Trumpy or Modi or, or a racist, and we just don't want that. And so I just mind my own business. I say I find my platforms and talk there, but it is really impossible. So is it that easy to get into the media, platforms to be able to even speak? Who is going to hear us? Who will even invite us? We don't have the media, companies to kind of help us out. So yes, it's an honor, by the way, to meet you, Asraji. Thank you.
Thank you for your words. And you carry the name of wisdom and express it today. And I think I don't even mean that just metaphorically. Like, your name is Lakshmi and you must be the light, like everybody must be. And I don't know if you know groups like Heterodox Academy. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but I encourage you to join those that are the outliers because that's what we are. We're the outliers. And there are new communities that have developed. If you can believe it, like 20 years ago, I know you remember this. Like I was talking to my mom, we had atheist Muslims, in the subcontinent, but it was still this thing that nobody talked about. And now atheism in Islam is accepted. There's organizations, there's people, young people have choices. And I'm not encouraging no faith in my point. My point is just the marginalized become the normative when we force it. And I want to encourage that, the Free Press, for example, is another a media outlet that has essays by people who have challenged the groupthink. So one example, just think about this as an example. Two examples I'll give you just to give you some hope is nobody talked about the liberal bias at NPR over the last decade. It has been pervasive, right? And then finally, one editor wrote a story about how he challenged the liberal bias, and then he lost his job. So he had a casualty. I took him out to lunch the other day because I know how lonely it can be when you challenge the orthodoxy, even though now he is the poster boy, right, of that. And now it's become Trump administration has removed funding. It's become an issue that everybody's talking about. And so it just took one op-ed, maybe 1,500 words. And the second example I'll give you is nobody heard of this young swimmer named Riley Gaines when she was swimming in Kentucky. But now everybody talks about the issue that she faced, which was she faced off against a biological male who was swimming as a female. And now it's the topic. It has become policy. That's just in 3 years. She just went on TV. She did YouTube videos. She did viral videos on TikTok. So it does take those few voices. I mean, that's how entire movements have been born. And so I'm happy to help you. If you write 1,000 words, think of places where we could place those your op-ed. Even writing, since you don't care about, being popular in academia, writing about your experience, challenging this issue. And that's what I learned over 20 years. I ended up writing an op-eds about my own experience because I had to be my own anecdote because I couldn't find Muslim women who would use their names challenging the orthodoxy. So Lakshmi, you have the name, you are going to have to be your own anecdote and you can carry that voice with your own personal narrative.
Thank you, Asra. And I think, Lakshmiji, everybody needs to take an initiative, right? Some people ask me, why do you do it? And I'm like, this is the purpose. This has given me that North Star that Asra was talking about earlier, right? So we need to find the right media, the right handles, right organizations who are trying to do something. So
We have
I
a
think we
question
need.
from
Yeah, I
Keshav
think
Chopra.
Ajay, we need to close. I think we have gone
No,
over.
he's on the panel. If you have a minute, maybe you can make it very quick and close it because he's already on the screen.
Sorry, what? Okay.
Keshav Chopra ji, please go ahead. Make it really quick because we are over time actually. So, thank you.
Om Jai Shri Krishna. I listen to everybody and I would like to comment like our Muslim communities. That is man, that is anybody else is talking?
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
Keshav ji,
we
there is a
can't
lot of
hear you.
background noise. We're not able to hear you.
Okay, so thanks. Like, yeah, Muslim community, that is man, somebody is still talking.
Yeah, can everybody put themselves on mute? Let me.
Okay, so Muslim community is man-dominated community. So one Muslim guy, my son said, met me and told me he likes Hindu system because they treat girls as Devi, as goddess. So he really liked that. So it shows that Muslim community is man-dominated for their reasons. They put the burqa on ladies so that they hide their faces for whatever reasons we all know. I have seen on media also. My concern is in this world, people are ritualistic, religious people. The world is divided because of different religions, but spirituality is Sanatan. And spirituality is not only for Hindus, but for the whole world. And not only the whole world, including universe.
Thank
Vasudev
you, Keshavji.
Kutumbakam.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that's what that's what I think some of our panelists were saying, that we have to go beyond religions because this is a human rights issue. So thank you so much for your question.
So when
We
when
would,
we discuss our religion, it should be in the public. Muslims don't discuss, teach their religion in public, in their Jamaat only. But other religions like Hindu, we are open to the whole world.
yeah,
That's the
that
reality.
onus, that responsibility lies on us, right? Thank you so much
Sure.
for your question, Keshavji. And we would like to really, I would like to thank all the panelists, that all the speakers who joined us today. Thank you so much for, I know you are coming from different geolocations and different time zones, especially Michael, he joined at post midnight. And thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you so much, Bhai Mohan Singh ji. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Asra. And thanks, Nikhil. You guys are doing an amazing job in your own areas. And thanks for supporting Chingari. So I would like to close by bringing up our call to action. This is what we have at Chingari. This is our process. We have been asking the administration to do these things, and I'm not going to go through all of them. You guys can, if people can take a picture and read through it and help us in reaching out the administration wherever you are. It's not very specific to US. Whichever country you are in, wherever you're joining from, this should be your ask from the administration. And again, thank you for
Dipti, just if you give me 1 minute, I want to thank a few more people. So I want to thank Ravi Kapoor for broadcasting this on Dia TV. I want to Manan Rawal ji, Manan Bhai is broadcasting this on Bharat FM. Tahir Gora ji, who is going to broadcast this on Tag TV, and after recording this tomorrow, most likely in Canada. And I also some of the other people who have helped us kind of propagate this. So I want to thank all the people who kind of help propagate this through multiple channels. So I just want to tell you that in addition to people who joined the webinar, we had this live on multiple channels, on both on TV as well as our social media channel. So I cannot thank Ravi Kapoor and Manan Rawal enough for carrying it live, and Tahir Gora for his Canada broadcast.
Thank you, Vijay. And also, I would like to thank our Chingari team for working day in, day out to support this. And again, humble ask to support Chingari because we have a long way to go. Thanks, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, everyone.